Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the IRA Architect series. I'm Patrick Murphy, the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Financial Cloudworks, and excited to do another session where we dive deep into the numbers about Roth conversions. Specifically, today's session is going to cover something that I hear all the time. So, is optimize actually optimal? I get this question often from advisors when I'm, meeting and showing conversions, and people ask me, "Hey, do you all optimize for Roth conversions?" And I always ask them, "What are we optimizing for?" Because that's what it really comes down to, the goal of what the client is looking to get out of the conversion. So today we're going to use a real life example and talk through that scenario live. So let's get right into it. If I can get my slide to work here. Okay. So John and Jane Doe, this is based on a real couple, actually a friend of mine who's looking to retire very soon in the next few years. So John's 49 years old. His wife Jane is 50 years old, and they're looking to retire at 2030. So we have a little bit of a gap there. Currently, their income is $500,000. They have 1.2 million in traditional IRAs, 1.2 million in a savings account, and they are going to need to bridge a gap between when they could start taking distributions from their traditional IRA and when they would start their Social Security income in 2047. So in both models that we look at today, we're going to be considering that $200,000 in income being taken away from their savings account here. So just like I do with my advisors, whenever I talk to somebody about a conversion, I ask them, why they want to convert. And John told me that, retiring early is scary. He's worried that because he can't access his traditional IRA before age 59 and a half, that he feels like he needs some kind of safety net. And that's why he wanted to look at these conversions. Um, he also has two sons that he wants to leave a reasonable nest egg to for them. But at the same time, he doesn't want to overpay on taxes. So when you hear something like that, it's sort of hard to cut through his true goal here. But what I can tell is, he has the assets outside of the IRAs, but he wants to start converting and trying to figure out a path to get there. So when he does reach the age to be able to access that money pre-59 and a half, he'll be able to do that. And then eventually he'll be able to, tap into his Social Security funds, but he doesn't want to overdo it. And he doesn't want to, spend too much too quick because that's the fear of most retirees at this point. So when John came to me, he actually had already got some advice from a software tool, and I won't name it, but many tools out there today do optimize Roth conversions. And essentially, what that tool told him to do is, hey, you're going to want to convert as much of this as possible, as soon as possible, so you can access that money without penalty. And that's going to give you the best and most maximized estate at the end. Now, when I pull up these two scenarios, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One, being optimized might actually, equate in the largest net present value or the largest Roth at death, and that's great. But is it going to actually accomplish the goal of John? So it's just something to keep in mind when we walk through the software. So at this point, I'm going to switch over and pull up our software so we could walk through it together live. And I'm going to pull up our Roth conversion tool here and open John's case. And we're going to open up the John Doe optimized tool. So in this instance, the conversion that we're looking at and what John was told was the optimized route was, and either way, we're going to take we're going to convert $1 million. It's just going to be over different time periods. So in this optimized route, we're actually going to convert 450,000 this year, 450,000 next year, and then 50,000 for the 2 years after that to convert that $1 million, still keeping some money in the traditional IRA growing because he's going to access that later on. But this is what the tool is telling us we should do, not our tool. But let's take a look at that. So we're going to let this generate now. And view PDF. Okay. So just like always, we go to page 3 of our report, what we call the magic page. And what we could see here is all the facts that I laid out at the top. John has 1.2 in his traditional, 1.2 in savings. He's 49 years old. His wife is 50 years old. And they do have some spending involved here. So again, that's that 200,000 coming out from 2037 to 2047. And now we're going to look at the right-hand column. On the left-hand side, we have no conversion looking out to 2066. And then we have conversion on the right-hand side looking out to 2026 as well. I'm not going to really focus on the no conversion side because in this instance, it wasn't a matter of if John wanted to convert. He does. It's just how much should he convert and at what pace. So again, looking at it from an optimized lens, the tool that he used was telling him to convert as much as possible on the front end to get it over. And there's definitely some benefits there. We could see that he's going to end up with 1.4 million in a Roth IRA that his two sons will be able to inherit. He's going to have a great positive impact of $151,000 on Social Security tax and IRMA fees by doing this because he's getting that conversion out sooner. Bulk of that traditional money is going to be gone before it would impact his Social Security tax and IRMA premiums. But the negative here, and it always comes with really any conversion, is he is going to pay significantly more tax to do this. So if he were to not do a conversion, he'd pay $167,000 over his lifetime in taxes. But by doing this conversion over the next 4 years, he's going to pay $415,000 in taxes, front loading that. And again, almost $250,000 more in taxes by doing that. So there is going to be a tax bill that comes with this. But again, the optimized feature does win over a no conversion of about 181,000. It's just a matter of, is John comfortable with the tax bill? So when him and I met and I ran this for him, I pulled up this page right here and showed him what doing the optimized conversion method would look like. So if he does convert 450,000 this year and next year, he could expect a tax bill of $181,000 over the next 2 years. And then in those final 2 years of conversions, about 19,000 and 18,000. When I showed him in this number, his eyes lit up. He wasn't expecting that large of a tax bill over the next 2 years. And then, a little bit and some change over that. And that's where you could start to see, what's really most important to the client at this point. I have these conversations with advisors all the time. And typically when you show them what that tax bill is, they start to think about it a little bit differently. And they wonder, is there a different way that we can do this? Now, of course, by John converting this much, he can access this $450,000. He could access it 5 years from now because of the Roth IRA distribution rules. Those converted amounts, he's paying taxes on that. He'll be able to access that pre-59 and a half. But as we create some sort of ladder, we're going to want to do that in a way that is more tax efficient. And that's what John was concerned about here. So we're paying the conversion. He does have access to that money, but it's at a larger cost than maybe he would expect. So when I come back to our software, we're going to look at a different method. So instead of doing 450,000 this year, next year, and then 50,000, for the next 2 years after that, we're just going to go down and we're going to convert $100,000 for the next 10 years. So that's all I did here. We're converting the same amount. Both are $1 million conversions, but now we're going to spread out that tax applicability a little bit and see how that looks once we pull it up. So we'll give it a second here. All righty. So everything else has remained the same. The only thing that we did was change the way that we're going to do these conversions. And now we come down here again to page 3 and we look at conversion versus no conversion, but we'll just focus on the right-hand column here. So by John doing those conversions over 10 years instead of 4 and just doing $100,000 a year, he is going to have less in this Roth IRA at death. There's a little bit more in the net traditional, but it's a couple $100,000 less that his boys won't inherit in the Roth IRA just by doing it this way. The caveat is his tax bill is cut significantly. So going back to the first strategy, tax bill was $415,000, giving him 1.4 in the Roth. Now when we come back and we look at this 10-year conversion ladder, he's paying significantly less in taxes, obviously a little bit less here in the Roth, but he still has a positive impact on IRMA and Social Security as well. If you notice, the net present value for the 10-year conversion ladder is actually slightly better than the optimized conversion path. And the reason being, he's just paying so much less in tax that it makes up for the difference that the boys would have gotten in the Roth IRA. So when I showed John this, I came down here again to our page 5 and just showed him, hey, instead of your tax bill being $181,000 over the next 2 years, you're really looking at 39,000, and it stays pretty consistent while his income's high. And then it obviously drops off when his income gets lower to retirement. But what we're doing is we're creating $100,000 buckets that he'll be able to touch before he turns 59 and a half. So as we create that ladder, if he needs access to that money, he will be able to get that after he retires, because again, he's looking to retire in 2030. We're starting this conversion now, and then every $100,000 after that is giving him access to tax-free income, paying a significantly less tax bill, spreading that out over that time period makes it a little bit more bearable for somebody like John, who really, when it came down to his goals, it was mostly about mitigating taxes and giving him the ability to have access to tax-free income if he needed it. So coming back to our PowerPoint screen, gonna just look at the two methods side by side. So strategy 1, optimize. Both are converting $1 million, but in the optimized option, we're converting that 1 million over 4 years. Tax bill is significantly higher, but we do see some positives here. Better IRMA impact by about $41,000, and a big chunk of change more in the Roth IRA that the kids will inherit. But when we look at strategy 2, that conversion over 10 years, significantly less on the tax bill, still a positive IRMA impact. Even though this is red here, this is a positive impact. It's just not as great as getting it out all over those 4 years. And then obviously still 1.1 million and some change that his kids would be able to inherit and then grow tax-free for 10 years. And then finally, the net present value is 2.780 compared to 2.720. So really at this point, you're looking at maximizing your legacy versus minimizing your tax bill. Both result in really great outcomes. It's just the method of how we got there. So I like to use this example just because it's one of those things that a tool can tell you that it's optimizing for the best result, but when your client sees the numbers, they might not feel the same way. So sometimes it's getting a little bit deeper into the why behind the conversion, and it'll help you, understand a little bit better on how to run these numbers and find the path that works best for your client and their specific needs, whether that is legacy or minimizing tax bills. With that said, that's the end of the session. If you have any questions on this, or you want to see something like this ran with one of your clients, definitely reach out to me. Happy to run this with you, or share any of the materials that I had during today's session. I appreciate you all very much for being here, and thank you. Have a good one.